Happy Monday, everybody. Hopefully you enjoyed your Sunday. Not the most fun sports weekend for once. We had no football, but we did have XFL, so that was a little bit of fun. And then we had the Oscars last night, which I missed two on my Oscar pool. I think, or no, I missed three. But they it was pretty easy with the Draftkings odds. You basically just had to go all chalk and then pivot over to the second chalk, which would have been Parasite, the second favorite in the director and whatever category. But I just thought it was a lot of fun to have DraftKings odds on it. All my friends are here telling me how they know all about these movies. And I said, well, I think you could just play the odds here and get away with that. Anyway, fun weekend. Had a nice day Saturday. First winning day in a while. On the way, literally I think I ran poorly in the tournament. I was about 14 points away with no fourth quarter run from my three most expensive guys. And I could have easily I think I would have taken second. But that would have been nice. But still made money. And now we're back at it. And I just want to announce real quickly. We don't have a formal announcement, but I'm now joining with RotoQL. We are going to be doing some shows together. Sheets is going to join us eventually at some point. And for right now, we're going to be going through their process. It's a phenomenal projection system. It's what I always used to use before I worked with RG. It's done very, very well for me. I think we're going to have a lot of great, not just DFS sports betting, but some great sports betting help as well. And great team over there. Really excited to be working with them. Happy they came and found us from these videos. Anyway, Sheets, that's a long intro. How was your weekend, and what are we thinking about this phenomenal?
Yeah, good. I actually made a little money on DFS this weekend. I still believe that that the weekends are a good time to play NBA because no one's doing it. The second thing about it is I'm a little steamed because I was really considering getting into this XFL thing. I was really excited about the new rule, about the rules. I was gonna really do it, and I actually looked at a couple of contents, and then it's not offered in New York, so SMD. So to speak.
Oh man,
Can you believe that? The fact that I didn't research that in advance probably is on me, I suppose. But yeah, so there's that. Yep, just ridiculous. The Oscars, yeah. I mean, I don't really bet on the Oscars, and I'm very curious to see where the RotoQL thing leads, especially with the sports betting stuff. I mean, those of you who've seen these videos, I alluded to my past. I don't want to say history, my past, experiences with sports betting, and I've done more survivor pool stuff than actual sports betting as I kind of got, in the last several years, because it's more about ownership fades and things like that. Well, hopefully we'll talk about that one of these days. But I'll be curious to see how the sports betting thing just kind of works out for both from a content and a development perspective, because obviously the industry is enormous, and it's just so hard to win. It's just so hard to get an edge in something like that. So I'm going to be rooting, and hopefully I can participate in some way.
Well, big shout out. I mean, I know everybody uses different sites, and I'm not going to slander any of the other ones, but I will say that I think RotoQL and RotoGrinders have the best projections of anybody in the industry, and they should help you. Literally, if you just take the projections there, you could be just a winning player playing cash games just without any extra work at all. That's how good they've been. So I'm really excited about the opportunity, and I'm really looking forward to starting it off with this really fantastic slate. I mean, we have one guy programmed in your lineup, and I don't usually say I like to lock guys in. I'm certainly flirting with the idea of locking Oladipo in at what is sure to be high ownership. We've been talking about him lately. Now is the day I feel like he gets the minutes. Great matchup. 4,200. It's criminal. If he doesn't end up high owned, I don't know how that happens, and he is going to be a guy who I'm going to have a hard time fading.
So the thing that's annoying about it is just because, again, it's always nice when you get the guy before he becomes really popular, and I was suspecting that that's what would have happened when Zion started coming. I said, we're never going to get Zion right. We're gonna chase him a little bit. He's not quite going to get there. By the time that we get there, the price is going to catch up. And we were kind of speculating on Oladipo the last couple of runs, and they didn't give us any breaks with this one. I would have thought they would have moved him up a little bit in price, just knowing that his minutes are now getting up there a little more. And I would have thought a $5,500 price tag would come here, and then we'd kind of lose him that way because it just wouldn't be as great of a play. I probably would play him at $5,500 if you want to know the truth. Mm-hmm. But at 4,200, it's kind of it's, in my opinion, it's just kind of become a seven roster slate. It's just
It's hard to
the only one that I've seen, again, you've done this longer than I have. I guess there have been worse, but the worst of this year was obviously Gordon Hayward at 3K. That was definitely the worst of them all. This one is not quite as bad, but this was pretty awful.
Yeah. The Gordon Hayward one was hilarious. All right, well, let's get into the rest of it.
Right.
So that we're starting with that game because that is an interesting thing to talk about. It's a really good game environment for Indiana. They match up really well at all positions. Basically, with the exception of Sabonis just being freakishly expensive. So I'm not going to play Sabonis on this large of a slate on DraftKings. I'll still consider him over on FanDuel, where not only would I consider him, I'll actually he might be one of the stronger plays on FanDuel at 7,800, but 96 is too much for me here. I like the Brogdon play. I like the Turner play, but I think the problem is, look, we've been playing Turner at Oladipo, waiting for our games at low ownership. Now we got to get them at high ownership. That's kind of frustrating. That's a little bit what I guess that all my complaints are. We did just, I don't know. I'm very much on the side of playing Oladipo in most of my lineups. I don't know how many yet, but I do think it's going to be in the 3/4 plus range. And I will mix in some Brogdon and some Turner, but I don't want to be on a very chalky Miles Turner. So I want to see where ownership ends up on him, or at least what I feel like it will, because I think that he's going to be just a little bit too chalky, just given the projections being so high. And then you've got, on the other side, the real question is how and do we run it back if we like two guys from Indiana? I think you've got some options. I really, really like Karis LeVert. When's going to play him. The guy has put up in the 3 games since Kyrie's been gone, with his minutes being pretty more secure. He put up 39, and that was a blowout. He put up 45, and he put up 51. At 7K, when no one's going to play him here, I think the projections are off. Now, I don't like the matchup for him, but it's a nice little run back if you want to play him with Oladipo, and you could play Oladipo and Brogdon because they're so cheap, or you could play Oladipo and Turner and then run it back with LeVert. Either way, I think that's definitely an interesting way to start off on this slate.
See, this is my comment on this. So we had this discussion the last, I think it was the last game that the Nets played. Yeah. So the idea was they had all this Toronto value, right? And I remember the conversation was, boy, it'd be, it sucks because you have all this Toronto value, but there's nobody that looks really good to run it back with on the Nets. And my comment was, I'm really kind of confident about this whole idea, is that sometimes you just got to just force it. You know what I mean? And that's what we discussed. I'm like, you know what? Even though from a projection standpoint, LeVert and Dinwiddie didn't look like great plays, whatever, I just felt as though the value on Toronto was good enough that I would just force bad plays in and just kind of hope that they kind of got there. And some of my better lineups, I actually put both Dinwiddie and LeVert in them together in that game, and they both did really, really well. And it was the Toronto guys that weren't as great. I mean, actually Van Vliet was fine, whatever it was, but Davis was really, really strong, and I think I had some Anunoby in there, wasn't as good. But I think that in these types of games where you have obvious value on one side, that if you really, really like that value, I would err more on the side of forcing the stack in. You know what I mean? Like instead of just ignoring it completely.
Right, I agree with the overall principle. What makes it a little bit trickier with a team like Brooklyn versus a team like Toronto, especially with the way the situation was with Toronto the other day, there was no question where the production and where the usage was going to be coming from. There was a combination of 4 guys that were going to be doing basically everything.
But isn't that the same thing with the Indiana today?
With Indiana, yes, but with Brooklyn,
that's the whole idea. The whole idea was that Indiana in this analogy represents Toronto, because Indiana is where the value is, right? And you know what I mean?
No, so, I get it, but they were playing Indiana that night, and the funny part is that Indiana actually had the value too, because they had no, Oladipo, and one night they had no TJ Warren. But I just think that the only thing that worries me about Brooklyn is this absolute need they have to make sure that everybody is. It's like watching like a teenage game or whatever. Other than Dinwiddie, you don't really know who's going to get over 30 minutes. Everybody else could sort of be in that 26 to 30 range. And it wouldn't surprise me if it was Temple, Chandler, TLC would probably be a little bit surprising. But I like Perrin Prince, and I like Wilson, and I like LeVert if I'm going to run it back. I don't mind Dinwiddie. I just don't think it's the right slate to pay 8K for him. Obviously, a better play over on FanDuel, where he's actually, you know what? They actually raised his price over on FanDuel. So still like him a little better over there, but I think I'm not going to be as high on Dinwiddie as maybe some of the rest of the field will be. And if he's low owned, sure, you can run back with him, but I don't love him as much as I do the upside of LeVert. I think LeVert is the best player on this team as it's currently constructed.
Yeah. So for me, again, I'm not. I was just taking more conceptually that I'm not as into the rest of the Indiana guys. You know what I mean? Like I have no problem with just running Oladipo out and just ignoring the rest of the game. I could certainly do that. But I do like if my first two guys to run back from Brooklyn would be the two guys you mentioned aside from Dinwiddie. The Dinwiddie's fine, obviously, but LeVert at 7K looks just so obscene. You know what I mean? Especially considering that if you go over to FanDuel, he's like just uber cheap, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that no one is going to go here, like you were saying, on DraftKings, and the psychological 7K barrier is kind of rough. So, and the other one that you mentioned was Taurean Prince, who I like to say is always has a 50 waiting for him somewhere. If in fact he gets minutes and gets hot. So if you were going to stack the game, I think that the two guys that you mentioned, like LeVert and Prince, would be the ones I would start with, and Dinwiddie would just be kind of a secondary idea for me.
Yeah, and LeVert, as much as I love LeVert, like I'm not going to say I'm not going to have him in like half of my lineups. I'm just saying as a run back for some of these spots. I still think that there's plenty of time where he could easily end up in the high 20s, low 30s here, where you're not going to be very happy. But he has been shooting the ball well, and if he keeps shooting the ball well, he's going to put up 40 plus fantasy points, and you're probably going to wish you had him. Although there's a lot of good plays in the slate, so we'll keep going. What do we got next on your side? We've got
next here is Atlanta, Orlando, and I have an opinion here, and I'm probably going to lose because of it. But so yesterday I did really nicely with with some Atlanta, New York stuff. I got really sneaky. I played a low-owned Randall, and he was killing it without overtime. He had like 35 and a half.
Already killing it.
You know, he was a murder. And then on the other side, I had our old friend DeAndre Hunter, who just killed it also. Yeah. And then it went to overtime. And then Trae Young got, you know what I mean? The Trae Young thing kind of tilted me. I didn't even use Trae Young. I used Randall with Hunter, and I really think that I don't want to say he got lucky or whatever, but Trae Young just kind of rolled on for like his 69 points. My opinion of this game is that they play double overtime, and again, this is. I'd be curious to hear what your sports betting people over Roto QL think about this kind of stuff, but they play double overtime. They're going into Orlando. I honestly want no part of Atlanta at all. And I'm almost like really just thinking that I almost don't want anybody Orlando either, because I think this game is just a disaster for Atlanta. Like if you tell me for real that Vooch is going to get 34 minutes or whatever, yeah, I mean let's play him. You think that all these other guys like Gordon and whatever is going to get full run of minutes? Maybe this is taking too big of a stand, but I mean, between how Orlando plays and the fact that Atlanta's off a double overtime game on a back-to-back, I want no part of this stuff. So you could talk me into it, because I'm looking at projection. All the Orlando guys look really good, and I know people are going to say, hey, let's keep playing Trae Young. We'll run it back with Trae Young. But dude, I mean, double overtime at this, I just can't do it.
I'm with you. It's not just a double overtime for me. It's a terrible matchup in every single way possible for Atlanta. I actually think the spread is too low on this game. I would be betting that a double-digit win for Orlando is incoming. And I don't really know. I'm looking here, and I think the guy who I would get the most behind, because the game environment probably suits him as a tournament play, but I'm probably not going to end up there on this slate. It would be Aaron Gordon. Fournier should get open looks, but Terrence Ross would rate to be a good play. But it just feels like, why do we need to do all this on this slate? They've got a lot of weapons. Sure, it's somewhat condensed usage, but it's really up to spread out to now 5.5 guys, because Michael Carter-Williams is getting some run. So I just feel like all those 5.5 guys are going to do their part. They're going to put up nice games. Somebody probably goes 7X or 6X. I don't feel like I need to try and guess who that person is to win this slate.
I mean, and presuming that Vooch is similarly owned to like some of these other centers, I mean, I don't know, man. I don't need it. I just
don't pay for him, man.
What's that?
A lot to pay for him. A great matchup, sure. And he gets 50 here.
Can I just pay $1,100 less for Gobert? I mean,
that's where I'm at. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got a back-to-back too, but I mean, I don't know.
Look, I don't want to. I don't feel as interested in this game as I should. Maybe that'll change as we move on, but I don't think so. There's some really good plays on the slate tonight.
Yeah, let's hopefully find some. So Charlotte at Detroit. So for me, it's the same three guys on Detroit, and they still haven't adjusted really prices enough, and I like them all. I like the two guards. I like Reggie Jackson and Bruce Brown, and I like Christian Wood. I think that Henson is starting to eat into, like you said, like you predicted, starting to eat into the Thon Maker minutes. So, and they moved Thon Maker up 40 to 4,300. I think the combination of that takes Thon Maker a little more out of play for me.
Yep.
And is in addition, if Markieff Morris is back, I think that additionally eats into Thon Maker. So I, for whatever reason, don't think it's going to really affect Christian Wood too much. I think he's kind of, as really sick as this is, I think he's kind of the man, you know what I mean? Like, especially in the front court. I think that he's got to be on the court more than everybody. And I don't think whether Markieff Morris is there or not is going to, in fact, impact the fact that he's going to be up for 32 to 36 minutes nowadays with Christian Wood. So for me, it's those three main guys, Christian Wood, Bruce Brown, and Reggie Jackson. I think they all look really good plays. What worries me is that Charlotte's now playing slow, whatever, but Detroit, whatever, they play slow a little bit also. But it's part of it's all incorporated into projections a little bit. So those three of those guys all look pretty good. And Charlotte on the run back, if you were going to do it, nobody looks that great. Maybe try P.J. Washington again or Devontae Graham again, have him frustrate you. But I'm going to start with those three Detroit guys. I presume they're going to be owned again. But as I'm looking through it, maybe not. I mean, if they're not that highly owned, I'll try them again.
Yeah, I mean, so my favorite play in this whole game would be just running it right back, taking another shot with P.J. Washington.
Okay.
I certainly don't have an argument against Rozier and Devontae Graham, except for the slate, the pace, I guess. It's a lot of spread out minutes in Charlotte, except for basically Bridges, Rozier, and Graham. I think Malik Monk is like an interesting speculative play, but it's probably the wrong slate. I'm not so super interested in this one either. I think Christian Wood is the other play in this game. It's basically I'm going to have some Washington. I'm going to have Wood. What worries me is how high owned Wood's going to be, which is going to be really high. It makes me want to fade him, but the problem is he's going to get double-digit rebounds every game pretty much. So with how many threes he takes and other shots, and if he can get 15 shots, and he's getting 10 rebounds, you basically have a floor of 35. So it's hard not to play him because there's a ceiling of 60. And I don't know. That's why I'm having trouble with it, but he is certainly going to be chalky, and for good reason.
What about the ownership of these Detroit guards?
Yeah, I just don't have. I mean, I don't know.
You don't really like him, huh?
I mean, I don't really like Bruce Brown. Fine, but I don't really see Bruce Brown as an upside type of guy in general. I know he's had a couple games this year, but Reggie Jackson at 66 just feels like a lot, even though there isn't a whole lot of other offense. I mean, to be honest, I feel like Galloway could just as easily get there, but I'm not going to go. I just don't want to do this. It just doesn't feel. Okay. I don't feel good about anybody actually in this particular game, and it sucks because if this one's tight, then you're going to get a ton of Rozier and Graham down the stretch on the other side, but I just don't see it.
Okay. Okay. So Minnesota, Toronto. Boy, oh boy, what about the new Minnesota Timberwolves from the other day, putting up 140 in regulation with
just smoking the Clippers. I mean, literally beat them so bad I couldn't even get my money out of that game. Jeez.
Worried about the blowout risk, but worried about it on the wrong side, I guess. It was that happens a lot, I suppose.
Yeah.
But we talked about this, man. When teams trade and whatever it is, they always come out playing, man. I don't know what to tell you. And Malik Beasley just obliterated everybody. Obliterated his price tag, to say the least. And days of him at 3,200 are just now long gone. So let's just take a look at this. First of all, are you presuming Lowry in or out? I'm presuming an in.
So
for now.
I was initially planning him out, but at the moment, everything I've got on my sites have him in.
Yeah, so here's the unfortunate reality. The unfortunate reality is that even with him in, I like all of these Toronto guys.
Oh, wow. Yeah, the ceiling matchup. I like it. Let's go.
Yeah, I like Serge. I like Siakam. I like Lowry. I like Van Fleet, and I am also in on the OG, so to speak.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm not in. I'm not as in on Davis up at 5K ish. You know what I mean? So I'll play. I'll play as many Toronto guys as they'll let me play without me over correlating, and I have to really talk about this. And I'm more than happy to just not guess the Minnesota guys and just run it right back with Towns and let's go. I don't know how much of this I can do because it's not like these guys are really cheap, but I think this is a premium matchup for Toronto. I think that all these guys are really good values, and I could just try pairings of two of these guys. I don't know if I'll try maybe Siakam and Ibaka together, but maybe like one of the guards, Lowry and Van Vliet, with maybe one of the forwards, Siakam and Ibaka, and mix those. That makes a little bit of sense, like 2 against 1 that way. Minnesota, I don't know if I'm ready for a D'Angelo Russell blow-up game. It's coming one of these days, I suppose. Probably when Towns is out, I guess. And then the guy who's popping that you gotta talk to me about is Hernan Gomez a little bit. So I never play him, so I didn't even know what team he was on. So, and James Johnson, guys like that.
He just got there, so he.
Oh, okay. So these games, so this game to me, I'm kind of into.
Yeah, I love the game. I think it's really interesting to note how much faster Toronto plays without Gasol. Like, they put up in their last 3 games 115, 119, and 129 points. And 2 of those games, actually all 3 of them are against teams that don't give up a lot of points. Chicago, Indiana, twice. So I mean, this is a team that I feel like is going to put up 120 points tonight, and I want to get some exposure here. I think my favorite play is actually Ibaka and Siakam. I think that I would prefer to go with the bigs. Siakam, I don't really know what we count him as, but I just think that that breakout game, we haven't seen it yet. I think he has the highest ceiling, including Lowry. I think that they're close probably, but I really like Siakam here, and I think that we're going to get that big game from him. And when you get supreme players in perfect matchups, I want to attack it. And I don't think, as of right now, the ownership is going to be high on Siakam at all. I think a lot of people will play Ibaka, but I'm going to be high on Siakam and Ibaka. And I think you can do it together, although I don't think it's necessarily optimal. And on the other side, like, I'm with you. Like, I like Towns, but I don't know if I'm going to go crazy with him tonight. I'm going to have a little bit. And I like Juancho, but again, just going to probably have a little bit. I need Juancho to be announced in the starting lineup for me to play him. There's still a lot of bodies on this Minnesota team.
Yep.
So Juancho's minutes at 27, I certainly could see that being a little bit lower than that. I could see him being around 24, 25 very easily. I can't imagine they won't let Beasley keep going out there and gunning. Even with D'Angelo Russell, I think that Beasley might be in play here at 4,500. I'm sort of fiddling what to do with value today, but he's a guy who I don't know if as a pivot off of. Maybe it is actually. Maybe that is the pivot you make off of Oladipo if you're going to make that pivot, or you can play them together. But like, Beasley can shoot the ball so much that he might be able to take away from it. And look, obviously Russell is the one everyone's going to focus on, but Beasley could still get hot in this game, and you know, no one's going to play a guy who just put up 48. Now I know, obviously, again, without Russell, all that stuff, but I'm still willing to take a shot on Beasley.
Is Culver out of your player pool yet? He's still in mine. That's the only reason I mentioned.
He's cheap enough. I just don't see how they're going to play. Like, if they announce he's starting over Juancho, I don't see them doing that though.
Over Juancho, I don't think he would start over him. No.
I mean, small.
I just kind of want him off. I kind of want him off the bench and to get hot and then leave him in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, you call him a small. I mean, I don't know. I don't trust the minutes as where they are right now. I think he's got a little bit of the rookie wall.
Yeah.
I think if I'm going to take the shot on the low, I'd much rather on a gunner like Beasley, or the minutes maybe a little bit higher for Juancho. Also, he can probably do more things out there than Culver in this game. I don't know. It's a little bit tricky between those. I guess Culver makes a little bit of sense, but I'm not going to do it. I don't think myself.
Huh. All right. So far, this is kind of my favorite. And the funny thing about it is that this is kind of cruel when you think about it. Is for those people that really like hard faded Towns the other day, they left him in like a 30 freaking point game to like get his 35 minutes. It was a little. kind of tilting if you think about it. I mean, I had him, so I was very, very appreciative that I was able to squeak out my 50, 55 points out of him. But there was no reason for him to be in that game in the fourth quarter.
It looked like at the end of the first quarter he was going to have like 100 fantasy points, but
Yep.
Anyway, all right, let's move on.
Okay. Okay, so Sacramento, Milwaukee. We alluded to this game really briefly when we started talking about Buddy Hield for a minute, but okay, so Giannis. When I look at Giannis, I just kind of say, okay, let's see what his minute projection is. Right. So, all right, so maybe about 30. That makes sense, I suppose. Again, I don't want to say I can't see this game being close, but if it is, then he certainly has upside from those projections. So if I was going to play Giannis, I'd love to run it back with a Fox or somebody from Sacramento, which we can talk about in a minute. But there's certainly nothing wrong with Giannis at 11-4, like ever on DraftKings. At some point, like you said, maybe these guys won't play that many minutes because of the All-Star game or something like that coming up. But I guess we have a little while to go as far as that goes. But I don't want to go anywhere else on Milwaukee. DiVincenzo's the guy I usually go to if I go to a second guy, just because he's always like 4K and kind of fits in the rest of my lineup sometimes. I never really expect much of him, but, he's totally fine. Like, I wouldn't say he's a real pivot over Oladipo because the upside of Oladipo is much, it's obviously much higher than DiVincenzo's, but happens to be the same price.
Yeah, I think that's why I mentioned just real quick, like, what I like better about guys like DiVincenzo's a guy who I could see getting 6 or 7 on this price. But what I like, which I expect Oladipo to do easily, but what I like about guys like Beasley is he has a chance to like 10x price easily. He could go for a number that would be hard for Oladipo to even get to. That's the kind of pivot you're looking for, I think.
Yeah, and then on Sacramento, I mean, I know Milwaukee plays good defense and all that, but I think Fox at 7,500 is pretty good.
Yeah.
So I would certainly try a Fox Giannis here and there as certainly something I would do. Everybody else on Sacramento for me, look who's getting minutes projections. Is it almost Jabari Parker blowout run season? I don't know. We're gonna see.
It's Jabari Parker revenge at Milwaukee.
Oh no.
I mean, look, I will have a minimum lineup. If Jabari Parker is going to play at all, even if you tell me he plays 20 minutes, I'll probably just throw him in one for fun.
Well, we don't know that. That's the thing. We don't know if he's going to play 20 minutes.
I mean, but if they said that he's got like a 20 minutes cap, I would assume that he's going to play 20 minutes. I mean, I don't think he's going to get the minutes. It's not really it's not a logical play. It's just a fun little. He has smashed Milwaukee when he went back as a Bull. He put up like 65 and he was minimum cost and no one played him. It's ringing in my head because that kind of stuff, when one guy like that can just completely win you an entire tournament at no ownership and minimum cost, basically, you just have to at least like let it glance through your brain. But I think we're not quite there yet.
And then again, the guys we talked about the other day was Kent Bazemore. Had a really, really strong game 2 games ago. And I was saying, well, maybe they play him, they reward him by playing good minutes again. And it's exactly what happened. They played him another 27 minutes on the back-to-back, and he had another pretty good game, So I think he's certainly in play at 3,500. I would certainly include him in my player pool at 3,500. So aside from that, I don't think I'm going to pay up for a little more for Bielitsa. I wasn't going to get to Hield today, but you can try to talk me into him. And Bogdan, I just don't think today is where I'm going to get to these guys. What do you think?
I like beating Milwaukee from the outside if you're going to beat them. The only way you're going to do it is by 3-point shooting. I would be into Buddy Hield here, but the price makes it a little bit tricky. Having said that, an unowned guy who can put up 50 is kind of interesting. But I would just shift over and play Fox instead, who I feel good about pretty much regardless of game flow type. Even in a blowout, I think he'll actually, unless it's like a crazy blowout, I think he'll still get his 30 minutes. But I think Bogdanovich is probably the best play on this side.
Okay.
5K is cheap enough, and he can. I mean, like he's another one. I don't really worry about matchups so much with him. It's really about how he's flowing. And if you have a team that gives up a lot of threes with a guy like Bogdanovich, I love taking that shot on him at a little bit cheaper than Buddy Hield. Probably has a few more ways to get you there than Buddy Hield, and he's a lot cheaper, obviously. While I expect Buddy Hield to have more raw points, I think Bogdanovich has the upside on the point per dollar basis that makes him the best play, along with Fox on this side. Probably put him behind Fox a little bit, but I do like him I think he'll be much lower owned than Fox. If I'm going to play Giannis at all, those would be the guys I'd run it back with. And Giannis just on his own, you could just play him too. I mean, he's like, what are we really worried about in Giannis's range of outcomes that he puts up 55? Because that's like his low end. I mean, like, what is the argument against him playing him at this price if we want raw points? Now, I don't know that we need those on this slate, but he certainly makes a lot of sense as a spend up just in a vacuum.
No, I mean 100%. I mean, look, you do have some raw point possibilities out of AD and LeBron in that game for sure. But so there it's not as though you 100% need.
You know what?
It's not one of those four game slates where he projects 15 points ahead of everybody else. But
it's interesting to me that at very similar prices, just how much more LeBron has been owned lately, and even AD in some spots than Giannis. Yeah, the prices are a tiny bit different, but
Giannis is just a lock every day. You know what I mean?
Like, he's a lock. Like, I mean, when is he not going to get 55 fantasy points? I don't even know how that's possible. I mean, the only problem with him is there's just so many guys on the team. I always think about it. I'm like, well, if anything happens, if he even slightly tweaks anything, it's not like he's going to get out there back for the third quarter or anything. I don't know. It's really, I think Giannis makes a lot of sense today. I don't think you need to.
And here's the problem, which I forget which game I talked about with respect to Giannis, but the problem with fading Giannis, especially when his projections are based on like 28 to 30 minutes projections, is that it's so hard for him to not get there because on the one hand, if he has a really, really good game and the game blows out, it's because he got 55 anyway, right? And the only way he doesn't get there on his own is if maybe the other team plays a little better, maybe he's just a little worse. And if he's a little worse, all that means is that you're going to get 4 more minutes out of him. You know what I mean? Like, to have to deal with. So it's really, really difficult to fade him just because of the way whenever you have a guy there, they try to not play him that much. You could tell they'd rather him not play 36 minutes, and everybody knows that. That's why he projects for 30 minutes a game. So if he's having a really good game, he'll play his 30 minutes and he'll get there. If he's having a lousy game, he's not quite going to get there in 30 minutes because the team's closer, and so he'll have to get there in 34 minutes. Again, it's not as simple as that, but I think that's a really reasonable way of looking at it.
Yeah, not to mention Sacramento has literally zero person who could even come close to matching up with him.
Hey, the one thing I will say, by the way, again, I still like him as a play, but based on what you said, and just reality, it is not the ideal matchup for Fox because of what you said. I mean, Milwaukee does they'll let people take threes, but they don't really want people in the lane. And Fox gives up a lot of open threes to try to get into the lane and like do other things. He's not that guy that's going to just be slingshotting him from three. So he is kind of playing into what Milwaukee wants him to do. So from a matchup perspective and a scheme perspective, it's not the greatest matchup, but just the overall price and everything else still makes him a decent play.
Yeah, I completely agree with all that. He's not a gunner. I mean, he can get hot, but take a few, but that's just not what he really does as much. But that's why I do like Bogdanovich quite a bit as well. But he can get there with assists. The pace of the game for a guy who wants to play fast. Like, this is a game I was betting the over under on, except for the blowout concerns, which usually leads me to the under. I think I would go heavy. I think I would go on the over. If I knew the score was going to be within 5 points at the end of the first quarter, I would bet the over in this game. Just where I'm at.
Okay, so next time I have is Utah Dallas. Yeah. So Utah at Dallas. So Utah is whatchamacallit. So Utah is on a back-to-back coming off the game against Houston last night, right?
Yeah.
So
no problem. I do want
to. What's that?
We're gonna assume Conley sits. I don't think he's played it back-to-back.
I don't know. I have him in my initial projections, so
okay. We'll see.
Again, the rest from the last one, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not playing Conley no matter what, but I'm just interested.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm assuming he's in for now, and again, just watch for it. If he's out, then it's I'll tell you who it is after that. Because if he's out, it's even more likely. Oh my God, they didn't even move him up at all. Oh crap! All right, so. First of all, I have a little rant, not a rant. I got into an argument with somebody, not an argument, like within one of the Discords, and about optimals and projections and all this stuff. And it came up because of Bojan Bogdanovich, right? Bojan Bogdanovich shows up in every optimal, like every day, okay? especially on FanDuel, he just always shows up, and they're like, well, I want to play Bojan. I want to play Bojan. I'm like, listen, pretend I'm 10 years old, right? And he's like 7K or 60, whatever it is. Just let me know any time on his freaking board that he would have made you happy, like ever, okay? And they're like, well, it's not that easy because I'm like, okay, you can tell me that, but if he's gonna continue to be projected based on, you know, historical averages or whatever it is, and not slant how he's been doing the last 15 games or something, people are just going to end up playing him these optimals and just always whine, oh my God, Bojan this, Bojan this, Bojan that. So, to some degree, game log watching and recency bias actually is important, okay? Because how a guy's playing now is more important than how he was playing at the beginning of the season, or worse, last season, you know? So I just made a note, not that I have any real strong opinion one way or the other on Bojan tonight, but he was just kind of like my poster boy for, you know, for anti-optimizer type plays. So on the Utah side, Gobert looks fine. I mean, he certainly doesn't have any real difficult matchup to worry about. He's on a back-to-back, which always concerns me a little bit, but he still looks to be really strong. And at 7,800, I'd certainly rather play him than Vooch in that other matchup at 8,900 with all that blowout risk. So I think that Gobert is a decent pivot off of anybody. I don't know what his ownership's going to be, but he's probably going to be lower on than some of these other guys. And Mitchell, he's just kind of not for me in general, but, you know, he looks to be kind of an okay play. And the other thing I would do is Conley, if he's in, I'm not going to play him. If he's out, I'm going to play Jordan Clarkson.
Yeah.
And if he's not out, I might play Jordan Clarkson anyway.
Yeah.
He's just, you know, when he comes in the game, he's incredibly active and he shoots the crap out of the ball. Now he's projecting to be not really good today. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to change that. I'm going to say that Jordan Clarkson is just kind of a marginal play for me if Conley plays. If Conley is in fact ruled out, I'm not even saying that means Clarkson's going to start, because he probably won't. Mm-hmm. But that just means that he's just kind of like a lock to close, and he's kind of a lock to really get extra important minutes. So I
don't know that I agree that he's a lock to close, because his lack of defense
so?
is something that would upset a team like Utah. They've played him because of trying to match offensive firepower. And the truth is, it's hurt Royce O'Neal. And the thing that's hurt the most is the Utah Jazz defense has been dreadful. I don't mean bad. I mean like dreadful. They've been awful. Now, yes, Dame Lillard hit a bunch of shots against them, and it's hard to blame them for that. But with Mike Conley back, this defense is terrible. I think Royce O'Neal would pick up the minutes, and that would make them a much better defensive team. Royce O'Neal's a spectacular defender. So I think that you might see a guy like him closing instead of Clarkson.
Well, that's what happened the other day. He closed instead of Conley the other day.
Yeah, I think that he's the guy who would be the most logical. He's the best defensive player out there on the wings.
Maybe I'm forcing a little bit with the Conley. On the Dallas side, I don't really like it to be that much, if you want to know the truth.
There's still enough upside, by the way, for Clarkson. I'm not saying not. I'm just saying I wouldn't guarantee these closing. I actually think you missed the best play on the Utah side, just because of if we're going to speculate on the Conley thing, I think Joe Ingles becomes a terrific tournament play.
Okay, just
want to throw that out there.
Yeah, again, like my projections are based on Conley being in. So if he's out, I'd have to kind of rework everything. Yeah. Ingles is always he's always fun to play under 5K.
I mean, you could play him just speculating that Conley even gets limited. You know what I mean? Like, right. He's going to play 30 minutes anyway. He's going to put up 20-plus fantasy points, most likely. And he's always got that, 35 to 40-plus upside. And actually a pretty good matchup. I actually think this is another one that I would flirt with taking the over on.
So what about this Dallas thing? So Seth Curry continues to smash every game, but now they priced him up to 5,500. I played a little Jalen Brunson, and I was not happy about it. And I was not happy about it when I played it, which is probably a sign that I shouldn't have played him. And he really didn't do too much. He's rates to be okay. Kristoff at 8,400 just looks okay. Hardaway just looks okay. I kind of have to be talking to these Dallas guys today.
Yeah, I'm happy to play. I don't. Again, my feelings about current Utah. They're not Utah. Right. So I'm just going to keep playing studs against teams that are just getting smashed by people. I mean, they've allowed the largest fantasy production of any team in basketball for the last 5 games. Literally, they get up Jokic's biggest game. He put up 70, whatever. They gave up huge games to Harden and Westbrook yesterday. Lillard had two of his 3 biggest games of the year against them. I mean, these are their last games. They're just getting blown up. So why wouldn't I take a shot on another guy to maybe have Porzingis go out there and get me 55 fantasy points in a spot which he was doing against every other team? And I feel like against other teams, he would be owned here. And I think you're getting an extreme discount on Porzingis. I think there is massive, massive upside for him here. I worry a lot about foul trouble for him in this matchup. I think you're going to see him a lot at the 5. And the physicality could get him there. He's a guy who does reach. He does get into foul trouble often. That's the one real concern I have with him. But if that's my concern, my thinking, like, if I'm worried about a guy fouling out, I'm just going to probably play him because I think he's going to get every minute out there possible. And I want to play some of these other guys here, but I'm kind of struggling figuring out who. And I don't know if we can keep counting on Seth Curry being the best shooter in the NBA, but
of course not.
Well, he's legitimately one of the best shooters in the NBA. He's an amazing shooter when he gets going, and that's going to take away all the production from other people. So if you're playing these other Dallas guys, I wouldn't suggest playing Seth Curry anyway, but I certainly wouldn't play Seth Curry with anybody else from Dallas because he sort of has killed everyone else's usage. Might make people overlook a guy like Tim Hardaway, who I would probably have ahead of Curry a little bit. So I think he's actually a little bit in play. I'm going to have to figure this one out because I like this game. I like a lot of players on the Utah side, but I really, right now, it's just mostly Porzingis for me.
Well, meanwhile, you realize, by the way, that Seth Curry's not the best shooter in the NBA. You know, the best shooter in the NBA is right now.
His brother.
It's totally Furkan Korkmaz.
Oh, Furkan Korkmaz. Jeez, man. Where did that come from? This guy, jeez.
That's ridiculous.
Talk about hot. That's a whole different level.
Yep. All right. So, all right, I guess that's it from this game, right?
Yeah. I mean, I just want to echo again that I do think that I'll probably have at least one player from Utah in every lineup. I really like this game, and on the Utah side, I really feel like Conley may not play. Of course, if he doesn't, it's going to make everyone else a little too chalky. But maybe we get the news after lock. Maybe Conley's limited to like 20 minutes. I don't see the need for them to push him, so that's what I'm sort of betting on.
All right. So next game, San Antonio at Denver. I have no issues with paying 10-2 for Jokic, and he's probably my favorite center. I prefer him over. I pay $1,300 more for him over Vooch for sure. As a matter of fact, I'll take him heads up over freaking Cat. You know what I mean? I don't know. I know Cat's got upside too, but I think Jokic has been playing just so freaking strong that, I mean, I was about to say that no one in San Antonio can guard him, but anybody can guard him really. So I think Jokic is a really, really strong player. I presume he's going to be high owned, but I think I can get him in without making too many issues for myself. So I really actually do like him a lot here. The other guys from Denver are just, again, guys I never can get right. So they don't really project all that great. So if you want to tell me who to play between these other guys, Jamal Murray, Jeremy Grant, Craig, Harris, guys like that, I had the same line the other day. I ended up playing Craig after all that. He ended up doing pretty well. So maybe he'll end up as part of something in this game. But the problem is that on San Antonio, I don't like anybody. I don't really like DeRozan, although I've been playing him. Not too into. I'm really not into anybody in San Antonio. I think I'm going to end up with just kind of like a Jokic, just by himself allocation, kind of throughout my lineups.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind LMA here on that side, but not like trying to get him in. I don't mind DeRozan at all, but I'm not, again, just trying to get him in. Like, this is not a great matchup for these guys. I like Jokic too, but I just want to say, just be a little bit wary. Like, Jordan McRae is going to start playing now. Paul Millsap played 18 minutes and played well the other day. It's going to start taking away a little bit of Jokic just had so much usage there for a while. And then with Murray back, Murray can just take over a game at any point shooting the ball. So I actually think Murray's a really good play, even at 7K. It's a great example of what we talk about. Like, if Murray was 6,600 or 6,800, I think he would be one of the most popular plays in the slate. And his being at 7K, I just don't see people going there as much. Maybe we could just all play all 7K. Just play him and LeVert and those guys and just all the guys no one wants to touch because they're 7K. But I do like Jamal Murray quite a bit. I think I give Jokic the edge, but I would certainly am going to have some exposure to Jamal Murray. And then I kind of like LMA and DeRozan a little bit, but nothing to write home about. Nobody else.
And remember, we really haven't factored in ownership into a lot of these plays. So, I mean, I'm looking at some ownership projections. I'm seeing like Jokic, like 25% plus. I mean, that's no bargain. I mean, let's call it what it is. You know, it's not as if I'm being fancy by taking him. So if there's other stuff, you know, if I can't find other good pivots, I certainly have no problem fading Jokic, right? But I just do happen to think he happens to be a good play. That's all I'm saying. It's not like he's my big, you know, off the board smash thing that's going to win me the slate by himself, because he has to get some ownership, if not a great deal of it. So again, I'm just kind of go over best plays for now, and then we'll talk about, you know, what's good GPP pivots that maybe, you know, in a different context.
Yeah, I want to point out on one thing in this game that I think that the real long shot play that no one, I mean, literally, this is a 0% on play for pretty much. Derek White absolutely destroyed this team last year in the playoffs and was putting up like 40s every game. Now, obviously, it's a different situation with what they have there, but he's a guy who has the upside to possibly be that low-owned guy who could help you potentially win a tournament. Now, again, if you play him, I think you want to try and play him with you could play like a him, Beasley, and Oladipo, because I'm not saying he's going to outscore Oladipo, but he is the kind of guy with enough upside to where maybe he works as a pivot, but I think I like him in addition. I think he's an interesting long shot tournament play, and I might actually put him in even a big buy-in lineup or two, because I can just see it happening again. I mean, he played well against specifically Jamal Murray, so I really am curious what they might do here tonight, and I could see it. You know, it's fluid in San Antonio sometimes. You can stay on the court a little longer, and no matter what, he gets his 24 minutes anyway. But if we get 28 minutes out of him, and he's, you know, being active in the offense like he was in the playoffs. That's an off the board play that just, I mean, literally no one is going to make.
This is a end of this pretty nasty road trip. Hey, if you can give me any reason why Derek White would play more minutes than otherwise, I mean, sounds good to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, I mean, and again, you keep bringing this up, and I think it's really, really sharp. I don't think a lot of people do. When you get pivots off of guys like Oladipo, rather than say, okay, I'll put White in where Oladipo was, just go run them both out there, you know? And I think that's stuff that most experts don't do, which instantly makes your lineups have different construction in them, which is really important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Phoenix, LA?
I actually had
okay, yeah, let's go.
Miami, Golden State is next. Okay, so I am presuming Butler remains out, and I thought I was really onto something. He ended up doing just okay last night. I thought he was gonna be really low owned and do much better, but Bam played last night. I really thought he was gonna just take it to Whiteside last night. I really did. He was fine. I mean, he had 4 or 5
points.
points.
I do last night. I didn't play yesterday for the first time in a while.
He was really chalky, and I don't think won anybody anything.
Okay.
I don't remember. He wasn't I wasn't worried about him. That's the best I could describe it. I was watching, but I didn't notice his fantasy points.
Yeah.
So we could look at it, but
no, it's fine. I was just curious.
No, it's fine, because he was like my main pivot. You know, I pivoted off him. So let's just see, what did he got? He ended up with 42. You know.
Huh? All right.
It was 5.2x or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was 7,600, really cheap, and he was very popular. So I again, back-to-backs concern me a little bit, but this matchup is a pretty cupcake matchup if you want to know the truth for someone like Bam. So I would go right back to him at 8,200. Again, I would prefer him over, you know, some of the chalkier options like Vooch. Let me see. What is Bam? Bam's got to be high owned too, no?
I mean, if he's not high owned, I think people are making a mistake.
I mean, the one place I'm looking at is him at 6%. So we'll just see what happens.
I love Bam tonight, so I'm totally with you.
So Bam will be my top choice, and then, you know, none disappointed people last night as chalk. But he still looks to be okay. I mean, not a big deal. So I would say Dragic and Nunn, Robinson, that whole crew, and Crowder, they all look to be just okay. I think Bam's my top play from here for sure. I guess maybe Crowder, if I wanted the lowest owned of those 4 guys, maybe I would try him. Golden State, I don't like anybody. So it's about all I have.
Yeah, it's I'm very interested in Miami in this game. I love
Right.
Bam. I really at this moment like he's one of my favorite plays in the slate. I love Dragic. I don't mind Nunn. Nunn's just been missing a ton of shots. Like, and he still got almost 30 fantasy points. Like, if he hits some shots, man, you're looking at 40 plus in his sleep. Um, you're gonna get Iguodala in this game. You're gonna get Crowder. You got Iguodala revenge. Like honestly, I'm not gonna play Iguodala probably, but I might have him in a lineup or two. I mean, he did play 22 minutes yesterday. He might not even be active, but he's going back to Golden State. You'd think he'd play it back. It's weird to start your like after sitting out the whole year to play a back to back to start, but he's 3.7 going to Golden State. Not to mention that there's a terrible team. It's kind of interesting.
That's tempting, Bobby.
Yeah, I like it. If Jay Crowder is in fact low owned, I don't get it because I think Jay Crowder is a fantastic play tonight. I think he gets 30 minutes. I think that they plan on using him. I really like what Miami did at the even though I don't like I think Winslow's a better player than either Crowder or Iguodala at the moment and going forward, but he's hurt all the time, and so they added two really good. Their defense now is just like loaded. Anyway, I think Crowder is the way that I would lean towards in this game. But it does worry me because Derek Jones gets minutes, and you could see him spreading out a little bit. They still have a lot of bodies even without Butler, but Crowder is a guy who can, he can 10x the salary like this. Like his ceiling, I've never seen anybody who's consistently got their ceiling lower than it should be. You know what I mean? He's put up like 63 times this year. Like he put up 45 in his first game, and like if people aren't going to play him, I mean, I actually think he's pretty safe with a ton of upside. I wish I had more interest in the in the Golden State side of this. The weirdest part is the guy I have the most interest in is the guy who you always mention, your favorite guy in the world. It would be Damian Lee. This is not the same defensive team on the perimeter quite, even though they did have those other guys. But Damian Lee is not going to be matched up with any of the awesome defenders. You'll get the Duncan Robinson and that stuff. So Damian Lee would be the most likely to run it back. And then I have no problem playing Kai Bowman at 4.2 if other value doesn't open up. While it doesn't seem exciting, there certainly is upside for him at this. He played 29 minutes. He only took 6 shots and he had 26 fantasy points. He had 11 assists. Obviously, the matchup is not great, but neither was it great against the Lakers. Obviously, we had no Dre in that one. We don't know where that stands tonight. I don't think I'm playing any Draymond Green, but I also am not sure how much it affects me if he doesn't play, except for if I got word that he doesn't play, I'm definitely going to take some shots on Pascal.
On who, Pascal?
If Draymond's out, but I would need confirmation that Draymond's out because it still feels kind of thin anyway. And then me, I'm not going to play Andrew Wiggins.
Yeah. This game is really not exciting at all.
It's weird though, because don't you think it could end up being like, I don't like the Golden State side, but I like the Miami side a ton. Like Miami might be the other team that I plug it, make sure to have one guy. Now they kind of are spread out with bodies a little bit, but you're going to get the point guard minutes from Dragic or Nunn is going to put up 40 in my opinion, is my guess. I think Bam's going to get to 50 tonight, but then you've got I think Crowder could get to 30. Like there's a lot of things to like on Miami side, in my opinion. Pretty wild you can Jimmy Butler and still be a 5-point favorite against a team that's been in the last 4 titles. I know it's not the same team, but it's just funny.
I'm kind of interested in your in Bogdanovich. I don't know. I was like kind of scrolling back to other games and stuff because as I look at these unexciting games, I'm trying to scroll back to see what I liked. I remember that Minnesota-Toronto game I really liked. And if you could get one of those 2 3-point shooters in that Milwaukee game, like either Bogdan or Hield to get something going, forcing Giannis into 36 minutes, maybe that's that's something. But again, I'm trying to get excited about any of these games, and it's
it's not a night where you look at the games and go, oh, that's the game I want to see. I mean, the best example we have is the Minnesota-Toronto game. And by the way, it's crazy because Minnesota's a 10-point underdog, and they know they just have lost 13 in a row, and Toronto's tough at home and all that stuff. But Minnesota, when Cat plays with a different type of energy, I mean, we saw what happened the other night, and then you've got guys who are willing to chuck. It looked like their offense was flowing. It was moving. We might see a much better Minnesota team. They've been incredibly streaky the whole time Cat's been there. But with Wiggins gone, with an actual, sort of a team that makes a little bit of sense, has something to look forward to, maybe you get the upside from these guys and they keep this game close, and then you can play a couple Toronto guys and run it back with, maybe Cat. I certainly think Cat is going to have a big game if the game is close, But But yeah, it is weird because I have a lot of guys written in my player pool here around 30%. And except for Oladipo, Bam, and Porzingis, that's pretty much, and Wood, that's where I have everyone. Those guys I have around 40 to 80%. But yeah, it's there's a lot of guys I'll do on my list right now. I've got Oladipo in a tier all his own. I've got Bam, Porzingis, and Christian Wood in my next tier. Well aware that Porzingis is going to be the lowest, like that lower owned than I think he should be. I really like, again, we talk about playing players in the same price range. If you can play Bam and Chris KP, like things like that, along with my 4K guard, like it's just people don't build like that. I don't know how to explain it other than that. And then the 30% range, I really like these guys all, and I just had to have to make a decision on who I like the most between Jokic, Giannis. I think I would lean a little bit higher on Giannis than Jokic now that I think about it. And then I have Bogdanovic and Crowder in the same category, sort of the Bogdanovic playing on the other side of Giannis in that game, along with PJ Washington, who I'm very happy to get at low ownership.
Just hang on a second there with your exposures, mister, because we got Phoenix at LA, and yeah. Correct me if my information isn't accurate, but
you're on it.
But we spent about 30 minutes, may he rest in peace, after Kobe died, describing about how Booker was going to play his first game, whatever, because he was a big Kobe fan. Maybe that worked. I don't even remember what happened. If he's coming into freaking LA at 8K, you can give me all of it. You know what I mean? So I will take Booker, and I will run it back with Davis. I will run it back with LeBron, one of the two, and I will just take my chances. How about that?
You know what? I actually like Booker. He was my next tier, but I had him at 25 to 35, but I actually just moved him up a little because I did think about that, but for some reason it just sort of escaped me as I was talking about the game. I also worry about this game for Phoenix a little bit.
Sure.
I feel like we didn't talk about that game.
Because we haven't talked about it. It's the last one on the list.
Oh, that's why. Because that's why I looked for my percentages, but I'm on my list.
I was going to say, I didn't want to interrupt you. You were going to your percentages and stuff.
Maybe that is the answer then. Maybe this game is where we're getting it. So talk about this game real quick.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, look, the good thing also, guys, is that there's instantly going to be, you're going to have about a 3% edge over some entries, because I know that Bobby's going to waste like a few dollars on Rubio again. So that's going to be kind of free money that you can kind of like snap up. So for me, it's going to be Booker on one side, LeBron on the other, Booker on one side, Davis on the other, and just enjoy my evening. And I think that there's a certain amount of law risk, a certain amount of everything risk. LA plays really good defense. I don't care. So we're going to go Booker with James, Booker with Davis, and we're going to try that in a decent amount of my lineups.
How about Booker just without either of those guys?
How about it?
Because I don't know that I necessarily need that game from either. I think Davis is probably the slightly better play, but I think they're both fine. But I just feel like I'd rather play Giannis. I feel like I'd rather probably play Jokic than these guys. And I don't think you're going to get low ownership. I think people are going to actually flock to these guys. So I might just play Booker separately, and I am absolutely going to take some shots on Rajon Rondo. He is 3,800. If we don't get other value opening up, and even if we do, I'm still willing to take a look at him. Again, a lot of guards out there, so it's a little tricky. But you basically can go about half of the games he plays, he puts about 25. He's averaging, his every other game number is sort of around 25-ish. He'll put up a 24, a 32, a 26, a 21, and then he'll mix in a 1, an 8, and 8. Those are his last 6 games. I'm willing to take that variance on a nationally televised. Actually, I don't know if it's televised, but I'm willing to take that variance anyway against the Phoenix team they're going to put a ton of points on the board. There's blowout risk, which he should get the run. That might be the savvier way to go. He actually projects pretty well today on a point per dollar basis. I think he's an interesting play. I'm not going to get to the KCP thing, but he is 3.3 and might take an extra few shots, but it's just not the right. You don't do that on this slate.
Hey, now with that said, by the way, I said what I said, but Rubio is kind of getting criminally cheap. I'm not gonna trash a Rubio play if you want to know the truth. But I will say, and this is a little bizarre. This is just like one site. I'm seeing Rubio at 25% ownership on Draftkings. That can't be right.
I mean, it is a weird slate, and his price makes sense.
With Booker at 8%? No, that's not.
No, it's not going to be right. Okay. But I don't think Booker's going to be that high owned, though. I like the Booker play. It stands with us. It makes a lot of sense. I'm definitely going to dedicate some of my lineups to that.
Yeah.
I don't know how many yet. I mean, but I could see Booker on this kind of a slate because there's some places you don't really know where to go. I could see him being in half of my big buy-in tournaments, sure. Along with Bam and Oladipo. Boom.
Well, yeah. I mean, and again, talk about it from a price perspective. Who looks great at 8K? You know what I mean? I guess the centers. That's about it, right?
Big guys. I mean, Bam.
Right, the centers.
Bam and Porzingis for me.
Porzingis, okay.
And then you've got Wood just beneath them, who's going to be the mega chalk with Oladipo. But those are all strong plays. And I mean, look, there's a lot of ways to go tonight. What I would say is that it definitely doesn't stand out, with the exception of Oladipo as being exceptional value at the moment. So paying up while we can get one guy in, I don't think we're going to be able to cram two in. I don't think this is the right kind of set you'd even want to. I think you'd want to play a couple of those mid-tier guys, 7K ranged, with one of the bigger guys, or maybe a few of the middling builds would be a way to go. I like the middling build today. I think it makes the most sense until we hear that somebody's out and we got all this crazy value we didn't expect. Yeah, like
yeah. I mean, but
watch Giannis be out or something.
That's that. What does he got this time? He's got a personal. Oh, he has no shot of playing, right?
No. I don't know. I don't understand it. I don't know what's happening.
He's considered questionable, personal, and no further details.
Usually those are hard to find. I'll do some digging up and maybe I can.
Maybe they're trading him to the Knicks.
Trading to the Knicks. For who? For what?
For Chance to Dream. I don't know, for 70% ownership in the team.
Yeah, seriously. You now own the team. That's it.
That's it.
All right, man. We're good doing the show with you. We did sort of go through my ownerships. I did move Booker up to being one of the second tier guys for me, with Giannis just behind him. I don't want to overthink it and just not play Giannis, especially if he's not going to be crazy high owned. So I'm fine with that.
Yeah, my thoughts again. I'm really glad we did it this way, because looking back on the slate, I still think Oladipo is kind of a lock. Right. I also think that I really like your idea, by the way, of if I'm going to play Booker, not necessarily having to play it with AD and LeBron. They could put up a decent, decent enough game or whatever without smashing for Booker to still get there.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I really like is going back to this Minnesota-Toronto game and trying to find a good run back in that Milwaukee game aside from Fox. Because Fox is the obvious one. But again, I think that if you can get like a real low-owned Bogdan or Healed to get off, I think that could be something nasty also.
Yeah, I'm with you completely there. All right, guys, we're going to get out of here. We're going to do a FanDuel show. And again, don't forget, we're going to be doing the RotoQL show a little bit later today. It's going to be on on Sheets and I's YouTube thing for now, but we're going to actually, eventually it'll be on their YouTube channel, and we'll still keep doing these videos. So give us the thumbs up, give us the like. It's an exciting day. Let's make some money. And yeah, we will talk to you guys shortly.